So hello and welcome everyone to this tutorial session. In this video, we are going to understand about Python naming convention and some coding standards. So we start off this video by understanding some of the key Python naming conventions, and after understanding the naming conventions, we will discuss some of the basic coding standards that we need to follow in Python. So without any further delay, let's jump on to our first topic and understand what are naming convention. So naming conventions in any programming language are the set of guidelines used while naming any program element. For example, in Python, the naming convention will be the set of rules that we should follow while naming any class, variable, or function. And these guidelines provide a variety of objectives, including improving code clarity, consistency, and readability for third-party programmers. It includes anything from punctuation to symbol and identifiers that denote something specific in that language. Now for Python, we should follow PEP 8. So PEP 8 basically stands for Python Enhancement Proposal. Now it is a set of best practices and standards for writing Python code. The goal of these principles is to make Python code base more readable, understandable, and consistent. In addition, this PEP8 addresses the naming conventions for variable, function, constants, and classes in Python. So let us discuss these conventions in detail. So we start off with variables. Now while naming a variable in Python, we should always ignore using single letter L, O, or capital I. This is because while assigning any numeric value, a variable could be mistaken as 1 or 0. So let us understand this thing with the help of an example. Now here you can see an example where I have taken small o as a variable name and I am assigning 5 value to it. But to another programmer, this might look like we are assigning 5 to 0, which is a bad practice and which is not possible. So we should always ignore using these characters. After this, while naming a variable, we should always use lowercase characters or word, and we can use underscore to separate multi-word variable names. Let's understand this thing also with the help of an example. So here you can see an example where first we have declared x variable and we are assigning 5 value to it. So we have taken single lowercase character. After this, we can also use word. So here we have declared another variable count. Now this is a single word and it consists all lowercase characters. We have assigned 1 value to it. And if we want our variable in multi-words, we can use underscore to separate those multi-words. For example, here I have declared user gender. So in this also I am using all lowercase characters, and to separate two words I am using underscore in between, and I have assigned male string value to it. Now after declaring these variables, I am using the print function to print the value of each variable. So if I execute this cell, here you can see we got our output where the value of x is 5, value of count is 1, and the value of user gender is male. So this all was related to variable. Next, let's discuss about constants. Now in Python, while naming a constant, we should always use uppercase words. Plus we can also use underscore to separate multi-word constant names. Let's discuss this thing also with the help of an example. So the basic rule related to constant is that all the characters should be in uppercase. So here you can see I have declared pi. Now in pi, all characters are in uppercase and I have assigned 3.14 value to it. After this, I have declared gravity. Now the gravity variable also consists all uppercase letters and I have assigned 9.8 value to it. Now if we want to declare any constant with multiple words, we can use underscore to separate them. So for example, I want to declare speed of light. So for this, I will use underscore to separate each word, and all the characters should be in uppercase. Now let us print this value. So I will add this speed of light variable in the print function to print its value. So if I execute this cell, you can see we got the value of all the constants. So value of pi is 3.14 and value of gravity is 9.8 and speed of light is this. Now after constants, let's discuss about function. So for functions in Python, we should always use lowercase word or words. Moreover, to make it easier to read, we can use underscore to separate multiple words. So let's discuss the example related to that as well. So here we can see an example related to functions. So a single lowercase character word for function could be something like this, where we have defined sum function, so which takes two inputs, A and B, and it returns the sum of these two values. And for multiple words we can use underscore. So here we have defined this multiply by 7 function. It takes one integer value z as an input, and it multiplies this value by 7 and returns the result. So in the last, what we are doing with, we are using the print function, and within the print function we are calling each function with certain inputs. So we are calling some function by giving input 6 and 19, and for multiply by 7 function we have given input as 6. So when I execute this function, you can see we got our result. We got result as 25 and 42. So first result is related to the sum function, and second is the related to multiply by 7 function. Now after functions, there are Python naming conventions related to other things as well. For example, for class in Python, we should always start with an uppercase letter and remaining as lowercase. Plus, like we are using underscore for variables and functions, in the case of class, we should never use underscore. Instead, we can use camel case. So here you can see certain example related to class name. So person could be a class name. So P in the class name should be capital for this. After this, student is another class name where S is capital. Then if there are multiple words, then instead of using underscore we should use camel case. So camel case is something like this. So the each word should start with the uppercase letter and remaining as lowercase. So here you can see an example, my calculator. So similar to functions, for methods we can also use lowercase word or words. Moreover, to make it easier to read, we can use underscore to separate multiple words. So here you can see an example, display, where all the characters and display is lowercase, and for multiple characters we can use underscore. So here you can see example, get underscore full name could be a method name where we have used underscore to separate these two words. After methods, the next thing is a module in Python. So a module name in Python should always be short and consist only lowercase characters. And in the case of module as well, we can use underscore to separate multiple words. Just that we need to keep one thing in our mind, that while naming a module, we should keep the module name short. So here you can see certain examples. So add.py could be a module name. Similarly, multiply.py could be a module name. And to separate multiple words, we can use underscore. So my underscore calculator.py could be another example. So after modules, in the last we have packages in Python. So package name in Python should also be short, and it should also consist only lowercase characters. But in the case of package, we should ignore using underscore. Neither do we should use any uppercase character. So here you can see certain examples related to package. So game calc for calculator is a short package name. My calc could be also there. It consists multiple words, but it is in continuity only. Neither do we should use any underscore, nor we should use any capital letters. Now that we understood about certain Python naming conventions, let's discuss about some basic coding standards. So coding standards are set of rules for certain programming languages that specify the programming style, procedure, and method for various parts of the program developed in that language. Moreover, this standard assures that all the programmers implementing code in a specific language must follow the same set of rules. So this makes the code more straightforward to understand, and it also helps to maintain consistency. Now let's discuss about certain coding standards. So very first thing is related to indentation. So indentation is a very crucial part in Python, because if you do not properly indent the Python code, we will get the indentation error and the code will not work. Moreover, indentation in Python refers to a practice of indenting words, spaces, or lines in a document to follow certain styling convention. Plus, many programming languages such as Java, C, C++ use curly brackets to define or identify block of code in a program. So Python uses spaces or tabs, which is also known as indentation. And this indentation is used in Python to identify a code block. So just like we define a code block using curly brackets in different programming languages, in Python we use indentation to define a block of code. So as per PEP 8, we should always use 4 spaces for indentation in place of just using a tab. So indentation in Python is done by adding spaces or tabs, but according to the PEP 8, we should always use 4 spaces and we should ignore using tab. Let us understand the importance of indentation with the help of an example. So here you can see an example. So first, what I have done, I have declared one count variable as 20. Then I am using if else block. Now to define if block, I will use indentation. So here you can see I have put in colon. After the colon, in the next line, I have put here 4 spaces, and then I have put the print statement. So this print statement will be executed when this condition given in the if block will be true. And after the if block, I have defined the else part. And for the else block, I am again using colon. And after the colon in the next line, I have put 4 spaces to define this block. And within this block, again, I'm using this print statement. So this print statement will be executed when the condition given in the if block will be false. So let us execute this code of block. Initially, we have defined the value of count as 20, and in the if block, we are checking the condition whether the value of count is greater than 12. If the value of count is greater than 12, then this statement will be executed, else this statement will be executed. So let me execute this cell. So you can see the statement which I have given in the if part is executed. From the next example, we can understand the importance of indentation. So in the next example, I have not given any indentation. So after the if block, I'm straightforward using the print statement. And after the else block also, I have given no indentation and I'm directly using my print statement. Now, if I try to execute this cell, you can see we got an indentation error. So Python interpreter will return this error, which states expecting an intended block after if statement. So we will understand about this if else statement further in this tutorial series, but as of now I hope you understand the importance of indentation. So after indentation, the next coding standard is related to the import statements. So in Python we should always put import statements in the starting of our Python program, and while using the import statements we should follow the following sequence. So first we should import the standard library. After importing the standard libraries, we should import third-party libraries, and in the last, we should import our local libraries. Now, it is also recommended to do an absolute import whenever only single class or method function is required. So, what is an absolute import? Let's discuss an example related to that. So, absolute import is nothing but just the import statement which we use to import the exact element. So, what we usually do with the NumPy library is we import the whole NumPy library by giving an alias name. Even if I require any small element of a NumPy library, I will import the whole library. But with the help of absolute import, we can import certain function or class from it. So for example, I want only ndim method from this NumPy library. So I have used this statement from NumPy. I have imported ndim. So now I can use ndim directly. So this is an absolute import statement. So after import statements, we need to take care of line length. So according to PEP 8, a line in the Python code should not be more than 79 characters in length. And when it comes to doc strings or comments, a large block of text is limited to only 72 characters. But however, we can use backslashes for multiple case statements. So this is a very simple coding standard where we should keep our line length not more than 79 characters. So after line length, white spaces also plays an important role in the Python program. There are certain rules related to that as well. So we will discuss these rules with the help of an example. So the first coding standard that we should follow is that while using any operator in Python, we should use single white space around both the sides of that operator. Here you can see an example. I have declared this x variable and I am using a equal to operator to assign certain value to it. Now I have used white spaces at both the sides of this operator, and this makes the code much more readable. Here also I am declaring sum as x plus y, and with the plus operator I'm using this white spaces. So you can clearly see sum is equal to x plus y, and after this I'm using the print statement to print the sum of both x and y variable. The next rule related to white space is that we should always use white space after a comma. So here what I am doing, I am declaring multiple variables and assign different values to them. So first I have declared this first name variable, then I have put a comma. So after the comma I am using white space, and then I have declared the next variable last name, and then I am assigning certain values to these two variables using the equal to operator. And with the equal to operator you can see I have put white space on both the sides, and then I have defined the value for the first name. After this I have put a comma, and again after comma I am using the white space, and then I have declaring the value for the last name variable. So after this statement, what I am doing, I am simply using a print statement. to concatenate this first name and last name and print out the full name. And there is one more coding standard that we should follow. That is, we should always avoid using white spaces between the parentheses. So parentheses is simply referred as this bracket, and we should ignore putting these spaces in the parentheses. So while using parentheses, there should be no space. You can see a simple example here where I'm using print function. So within the print function, I have put the sum variable which I have calculated here, and you can see I have not put any extra white spaces in between that. So let's execute this cell. So you can see all the statements in the cell are executed successfully. So we got sum of x and y as 115, full name as Paul Walker, and in the last we printed out sum. So sum is also 115. Now the next coding standard that we should follow in Python is don't repeat yourself, which is commonly referred as dry. In Python, we should always reuse code, and for this task, it is recommended to follow this dry concept, don't repeat yourself, and we can do so by using the notion of function and classes in Python. So we will discuss how we can declare functions and how we can reuse our code. Plus, we will also see how we can declare classes further in this tutorial series. So after this, in the last, we got string quotation. So in Python, we can use both single quotes as well as double quotes for the string representation. However, if we need quotation inside any code, then we will have to use both the single quotes as well as double quotes to avoid the syntax error and unnecessary backslash. So we will understand this concept with the help of an example first. So here you can see an example where first I have shown how we use single quotes to declare a string. So message 1 consists a text which is written using a single quote. Then I have declared another message 2 variable which consists text with which I have declared using double quotes. Now what if I want to use single quotes between this? So for example, I want to put single in quotes. I want this type of representation, but whenever I execute this thing, you can see Python will return an error because according to Python interpreter, we started a string from here using single quote and we ended here, and then single is without any quotes, and then we again started another single quote where we have defined this string. So there are two strings, but Python interpreter is unable to understand what is single. So that's why this error has been occurred. So we can easily use quotes, but if we are starting any string using single quotes, then we can represent double quotes within it, or if we are using double quotes to define our string, then we can use single quotes to represent quotations within that value. So here you can see example message 3. So this is a text containing single quotes. So here you can see I started this string value within the double quotes, and to represent the quotes within this text value, I'm using single quotes. And if I start my values using single quotes, then I can use double quotes in between. So let's execute this cell again, see the result. So here you can see the result, and here you can see in the output we got single quotes as well, and when we use double quotes we got our double quotes. So with this we have come to the end of this tutorial session. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one.